How to sell your art prints without reducing scarcity while increasing the amount of sales that you make by around 50% in revenue. As a beginner, that means $2,000 to $3,000 a month. As a more advanced artist, obviously much more. And I know this works because I've exhibited throughout the world. Galleries have sold prints of my art, and I, as an independent artist, have sold prints more than I can count myself. So let's dive in. First, I want to explain all of the psychological principles in play when it comes to selling your art via prints. We're going to talk about scarcity, but also social proof and demand. Then afterwards, I want to give you a 3-step launch formula that will be absolutely mind-blowing. So let's start with scarcity. Scarcity is easy and simply states that objects that are scarce, aka there are not a lot of the objects available, can, not always, can increase the desirability of that object, aka you sell more and at higher price points. If Ferrari makes a bunch of cars and one of their models is super high end, but there are only 8 available, and the other model is also super high end, but there are unlimited amounts available, then obviously the one with 8 only available will get higher price points because people now can say, well, I have one of those super limited Ferraris that are like extremely exotic and nobody can get one and all of that stuff. So that's scarcity. Now, scarcity doesn't work if there is no demand. That's why we have the second psychological principle that needs to be in place: demand. A lot of artists have a lot of objects that are scarce, aka original art, but there's only one available, but nobody buys their work because there's no visible demand. Demand needs to be visible. The customer needs to see that things are being sold, that there is a demand for that scarcity element to actually work. And then we have a third element, which is social proof. Now, demand in and of itself is some kind of social proof because it shows that people want the object. But demand in and of itself cannot create social proof because demand can also backfire. Let's say you sell art prints, but your packaging is crap, your fulfillment is crap, so people now have to wait 16 years before the art print arrives, and oftentimes it arrives damaged. What's going to happen? A lot of customers will have bad experiences, will then write bad reviews, and now you have the opposite of social proof. You have social hate, and this will obviously backfire in a negative way. Now, people will be less likely to buy because they see other customers complaining, and now the safety of purchase goes down. It is less safe to buy this object because you might also end up having problems just like these other people. And so social proof is very important. Now, let's review selling art prints so that we can reduce scarcity, sell more, make more money with these 3 psychological principles. Let's say that you are selling art prints and the packaging is great and the delivery is great and your customer service is great and all of that stuff. Let's say that you have limited edition art prints. Let's say 10, because you're a beginner, you don't want to do 100 because then you're not going to sell all of them. So you only do 10. What is happening in this scenario? Well, if you sell out because you keep demand or you keep the amount of prints available very small, only 10, you sell out, what is happening? You are showcasing to the potential new customer that there's a lot of demand. They see that things are selling out. They see also a particular amount of scarcity, aka there are only 10 available. And what else happens? Your social proof, the amount of testimonials that you generate, does this go up or does this go down? Well, if you sell your art at $2,000 or $3,000 and you make prints available of $200, then that's a much lower price point. More customers will be added to your ecosystem, and more customers means more testimonials and more social proof. So the social proof actually goes up. I also said that more customers enter your ecosystem. So what does that mean? It means that more potential buyers now exist in your ecosystem for your original art. And so the demand on the scarce items that you have also goes up. In fact, I've made a whole video, 40-minute long video, where I analyze all collectors. And in that video, you don't have to watch it. The short version is that a lot of beginning collectors, their first purchase is art prints because it's a very low barrier to entry. And then of the artists that they buy art prints from, later on, 1 year later, 2 years later, they buy an original piece from one of those artists that they are familiar with. And so it's a very good way to get more customers in your ecosystem that you can then upsell to on a later date. Upsell means you sell a higher ticket product, a product that has a higher cost, that has a higher price point to customers that you already have. And so what happens here? Your social proof goes up. Your demand also goes up. More people see that more people want your art. That's interesting. So the total impact on scarcity is massively positive in this thing alone. Now, let's talk about scarcity, because you could say, well, you now have more prints, so that's more objects, meaning the scarcity goes down. But let's review this. Do you still have the same amount of original art available? Yes. Is that still original art? Yes. Does that mean that you still have only one piece of each of those original artworks available? Yes. So the scarcity on your actual scarce items doesn't go down at all. It's the same amount of scarcity. And so the psychological triggers that needs to be in play for scarcity to work go up. So the effectiveness of your scarcity goes up and the amount of scarcity actually stays the same. And so what does all of this mean? Well, it means that if you want to sell art prints without reducing scarcity, what do? You simply sell art prints, because art prints actually increase the scarcity and increase the effectiveness of the scarcity, increases the perceived scarcity, because there's now more demand and more social proof. Now, before I want to give you the 3-step plan on how to actually execute on this with a beautiful launch sequence that is already going to outperform 98% of artists and let's say 60% of gallerists, because gallerists actually don't go that advanced. A lot of them are not as good as you might think. Before we do that, I want to share with you where this whole video came from, because a student in the artist formula asked this very question, where she was afraid that selling art prints would reduce the scarcity and reduce her perceived value in the marketplace. I gave an answer to that question, and oftentimes the answer that I give in the community section are like one A4 page long or longer. And so if you want your questions to be answered, this is one of the ways to do it. Let's go to the launch sequence. And by the way, this is an ideal setup for absolute beginners, because a lot of beginners, they are actually afraid of selling original art. They've made art their whole lives, never spent time on the actual business side. And deep inside, they don't want to depart from their original artworks. They love the original art so much, and they don't want to see just go away to random strangers. And so this blockade then prevents them from becoming a little bit more professional. Now, art prints allow you to sell, make money without selling your original art. And if you're a little bit more advanced than a beginner, let's say you sell 10 artworks at $2,000 a year, so that is $20,000 in original art. If you would then, let's say, open prints, then, and you say a realistic estimate in that scenario would probably be that you sell another 30 or 40 prints. So 30 or 40 prints, let's say 30 at $200 a print. That is $6,000 that you add without extra customers, without extra marketing, without extra social media power. The same social media power that you have will simply add $6,000 to the equation. And then on top of that, as we just explained, your perceived scarcity, your demand, and your social proof goes up, which means that you might sell another 1-2 original artworks down the road from that. So your actual income increases by $10,000, from $20,000 to $30,000 without doing anything more, no extra marketing. That's massively powerful. Let's go to the launch sequence that will already outperform 98%, 99% of artists out there. So in step 1, you are going to order art prints, one art print of the same artwork from 4 different art print facility centers. And then you let it be shipped to your place and you see for quality. You scan for quality. Which of these products is actually the best product that will have the best impact on my customer? Because the major benefit is not actually selling the art prints, the major benefit is down the line, your art prints should result in extra original art sales. And how are they going to do that? Well, if the collector buys 5 art prints and your art print has the highest quality, makes the best impact, they will be more likely to choose you to then buy an original art from. And so that's the long-term game plan that you have in mind. Then in step 2, you want to use the following launch sequence. The first email or the first video that you send to your subscribers is a video that will generate a little bit of curiosity, a little bit of excitement, where you just say, hey, I'm going to make art prints available and I'm gonna select the best one that you guys want most of my most popular pieces. Here are the 3 most popular pieces. Which one would you love most? Very simple. You're basically selling here without selling. You're not hard selling. You're just saying, hey, I want your advice. And instead of saying, hey, I'm going to sell this thing, you say, hey, I want your advice on what the best one would be. This is the least salesy approach that you can have with the same amount of impact as actual selling. Now, they are going to give their input, say, hey, I want this one, or this one is the nicest one. I like this one most, that type of stuff. And now they are making a micro commitment. What is a micro commitment? Whenever somebody makes a micro commitment, they are way more likely to stay consistent with that commitment. So way more likely to accept a bigger ask later down the line. And now they are invested in this whole journey. Just with a simple question, which one do you like most of these pieces? I'm going to make art prints available in the future. Simple question. They are invested and committed. Then the second email or second video that you send is what you did in step 1. You say, hey, I just ordered these pieces. I'm scanning for quality. I actually believe that this one has the highest quality. The paper quality is just a little bit better. The colors pop out a little bit more, that type of stuff. Now you're creating more authority. You show that you are putting effort in this whole art printing. You show that you are selecting for quality, and you let the potential customer enter this journey. You let them enter this story of how the art prints are being made. And now they're emotionally invested as well. So there's curiosity, there's an emotional investment that is going on by simply sharing things. You're not selling yet at all. By the way, a lot of artists, they will complain like, hey, I have so many followers, but it's all other artists. There are no collectors in my follower base. This little launch sequence that I'm explaining allows you to see who the collectors are with a simple question: which one do you like most? I'm going to make art prints available. Now the people that are commenting, people that are replying to that mail, they are people that are interested in buying art prints. And so now you're splitting your audience up in those who like to buy art and those who are other artists that would never buy art at all. And so with a simple launch sequence, you actually get insight into, number 1, you don't have just other artists in your follower base, but actually art collectors, and you identify which ones those are. In the third mail or the third video, you talk about scarcity. You talk about how limited this supply will be and why you are going to limit it to this amount. You obviously calculate a bit what you could potentially sell out and all that stuff. And so right before you are going to send email 4, you are adding that scarcity element, which is obviously a sales principle that generates more sale. And then in the 4th email, you open your cart and you make it available for sale. And you make sure that there's a limited time span that they can get an extra benefit. If you just open the cart and there's no deadline to when you will close this extra offer, then they will not feel the urgency to buy right now because they know that they can buy at any given moment. This is one of the major mistakes that gallerists as well as artists are making all over the place. And so an added benefit could be, for example, during this small launch window of 7 days, if you buy 2 prints instead of 1, you get a 50% discount only available during this launch week. And afterwards, it's just normal price points, just like that. Now you have a beautiful, simple launch sequence that will actually get you sales and know which of the followers are customers, and collectors, and everything that we talked about in this whole video. Now, if you want to expand on this launch sequence and have more emails or more videos with more psychological triggers to make it more powerful, I recommend my video Best-Selling Secrets Calories Won't Tell You. Don't forget to check out the community where you can ask questions, link in the description. That's it. Get the hell out of here.